على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أما بعد. To continue the study of Al-Ibanah to Sughra ibn Battah rahimahullah, he now says وقال ابن سيرين, meaning Muhammad ibn Sirin, he says ما كان الرجل مع العثر فهو على الطريق. As long as a man is with the sunnah, then he's on the path. And this narration is authentic to him rahimahullah. Shaykh al-Rajihi, he says al-athar, its meaning here is the sunnah. For al-athar is used for the sunnah and reported to the companions and tabi'een. And so long as a man is with the narration, he follows them, holding on to the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then he is upon the straight path. And once he turns away from al-athar, the narrations, then he'll be upon innovations, turning away from the straight path. Now before we mention the next couple of narrations, I want to mention the benefit of Ibn al-Qayyim, which he mentioned in his book I'lam al-Muwaqqi'in, when talking about the different angles which show the virtues of the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum. And he mentions these following athar in that area. And he says before that, he says, if they said, I mean the companions, a statement, or some of them, the companions said something, and they were opposed by other than them, then that person has started a statement and innovated it. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, upon you is my sunnah, and the sunnah of the rightly guided khulafa after me. Stick to it and hold on to it with your molar teeth. Beware of newly invented affairs, for every innovation is misguidance. And the statement that has come after the Sahaba, after them, opposing them in it, then is a newly invented affair which are not allowed to be followed. Pay attention to that point at the end here, where he says a statement that has come after the Sahaba, in which they are opposed, then it is considered a newly invented affair which is not allowed to be followed. For that statement of Ibn Qayyim there will explain a lot of what we're going to mention inshallah. Then he says وقال إبراهيم النخعي لو بلغني عنهم يعني الصحابة, if it reached me from the companions أنهم لم يجاوزوا بالوضوء ظفرا, that they did not exceed a nail when making ablution, ما جاوزته وكفى على قوم إزراء, he said I would never have done more than that either, and I've not exceeded it. And is enough contempt على قوم وكفى على قوم إزراء أن تخالف أعمالهم. It is enough contempt for a people that they oppose their deeds, meaning the companions' deeds. So here Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, and we mentioned his biography before, he's saying not to oppose the sunnah even if it's something little. Stop where they stopped and don't exceed, and don't be negligent. That a person should hold on to the sunnah as much as he is able to do so, not exceed that which they did, and not be negligent regarding it. And sufficient of a dispraise for a person is that he opposes the actions of the Sahaba and their statements, which is upon the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. I want to mention a benefit, because the hadith of Hurairah radiallahu anh, that the Prophet ﷺ, he said, none of you should walk wearing one shoe. None of you should walk wearing one shoe. You should either wear them both or take them both off. You should either wear them both or take them both off. Reported by Bukhari and Muslim. Shaykh Abdul Razak al-Badr, when mentioning this, he said that it's mentioned that Shaykh ibn Baz rahimahullah was asked, what if the second shoe is a bit distant from me, to the extent of a step or two? Should I walk towards it with one shoe? Should I walk towards it with one shoe? Shaykh ibn Baz, he says, if you're able to not oppose the sunnah, even if it is with one step, then do so. If you're able to not oppose the sunnah, even to the extent of one step, then do so. Don't oppose the sunnah. Don't oppose the sunnah at all, in any way. And this shows what Ibrahim al-Nakha'i is saying, that if the Sahaba stopped at the nail, we wouldn't exceed it. We would do what they stopped at. So whatever the sunnah of the Prophet indicates us to, we stop there, we don't exceed. We don't exceed based on our opinions. Sufyan al-Thawri says, إِنَّمَا الدِّينُ بِالْآثَارِ, the religion is based upon narrations and reports. إِنَّمَا الدِّينُ بِالْآثَارِ. He also said, يَنْبَغِي لِلرَّجُلِ أَلَّا يَهُكَّ رَأْسَهُ إِلَّا بِأَثَرٍ. It's befitting for a man not to even scratch his head except if he has a narration. I mean, that's how severe these Salaf were when it came to following narrations. That everything was done based upon a athar, a narration from the companions of the Prophet ﷺ and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. For that reason, the scholars say, how can one identify what to do and what not to do? This needs knowledge. So you have to read the narration of the Prophet ﷺ and the narration of the Salaf and the Sahaba in order to understand what is Sunnah, what is Bid'ah. That which is Sunnah, you follow it, don't exceed it, and not negligent regarding it. And that which is Bid'ah, you stay far away from it. He says, قال شريح إنما أكتفي الأثر فما وجدت قد سبقني إليه حدثتكم به. Shuraih, he said, I verily follow the example of the narration. So whatever I find that they, the first generation, preceded me in, then I narrate it to you. And if I have an evidence that they did it, I'll narrate it to you. Shuraih is Ibn al-Harith. He was a well-known qadi, a well-known judge in the time of the Sahaba. Some of them, they say that Shuraih accepted Islam during the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and that he left Yemen during the time of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. The one who made him a judge in Kufa, they say, was Umar radiallahu anhu. Umar placed him as a judge in Kufa. And they say that Shuraih was a judge for 60 years. He was a judge for 60 years, and he stopped being a judge 1 year before he passed away. That he stopped being a judge 1 year before he passed away. And the scholars, they praise him. Ibn Sirin, he says to Shuraih one day, how was your morning? He said, I've gotten up this morning, half of the people are angry with me. And you know why he said that? I've gotten up this morning, half of the people are angry with me. Anyone know a reason why he may say this? He's a judge. A judge, two groups come to him, one's going to win, one's going to lose, so half of them are upset with him. So he's saying, yeah, I woke up and half of the people are upset at me. He also said, rahimahullah, that he said, if I'm afflicted with a trial, I praise Allah upon it 4 times. He says, number 1, I praise Allah that it wasn't worse than it is. Number 1, I praise Allah that it wasn't worse than it is. Number 2, I praise Allah that He gave me patience upon that trial. Number 3, I praise Allah that I'm given success to do istirja', say inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, due to that which I hope reward in that. And number 4, I praise Allah that He hasn't made that trial in my religion. This is a righteous man making these kind of statements, rahimahullah. From that which they mentioned about him, that he had a long life. He lived up to 108 years old. He lived up to 108 years old. And as we said, he was a judge until 1 year before he passed away. As for his statement, he's saying here that I follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and the narration of the companions and tabi'een. I don't innovate. If I don't have a proof for something, I won't narrate it to you. If I don't have an evidence for something, I'm not going to relate it to you. But if I have an evidence for something, I'll relate it to you. And that's how it should be. That's how it should be. From that, what Shaykh Al-Uthaymin often mentions is that a person shouldn't believe something first and then look for an evidence. Because if you believe something first and then you're looking to prove that belief, you're going to have fanaticism. Rather, a person should find an evidence, a proof, and then believe based on the evidence and proof. Why? Because if he doesn't do so, he's going to be biased. If he believes, example, something, he's going to find any way to try to distort the evidences to make it fall in accordance with that belief he has. So that is important for us to follow athar. You find an evidence and you believe. You find an evidence and you act. You don't act before you have an evidence. You don't act before you have an evidence. Now, I want to mention a benefit from Imam al-Nawawi, that he said that the scholars of hadith, when it comes to athar includes that which is marfu' to the Prophet ﷺ, raised to the Prophet ﷺ, that which is mawquf, meaning a statement of the companions as well. They are called al-athar. The scholars of hadith called the athar. Now, the scholars, when it comes to terminologies, they have 3. Hadith generally is used only for the Prophet ﷺ, that which is ascribed to the Prophet ﷺ, except if there is a restriction mentioned, it could be used for someone else as well. Athar is used for the narration of the Prophet, the companions, and the tabi'een. As for khabar, then it's more general than that. And it's important to understand this because we'll come to some narration where he says, وَجَاءَ فِي الْآثَارِ. It comes in the narrations. Narration from who? From the Prophet, or from the Sahaba, or from the tabi'een. Now, then he says, وَقَالَ بَعْدُ الْعُلَمَاءِ وَلِدْتُ قَبْلَ الْاِعْتِزَالِ. Some of the scholars said, I was born before the Mu'tazila sect was there. Now, the Mu'tazila, they're a group that has many flaws. And they're a group that came later on. They weren't there during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, nor during the time of the Sahaba. They came later on. The Mu'tazila, they're a group from the groups of the philosophical schools who basically took their beliefs and everything and were affected by the Greek philosophy, as I mentioned before. Now this sect originated from a man called Wasil ibn Ata, who left the sittings or withdrew from the sittings of Hasan al-Basri. So he withdrew from the sittings of Hasan al-Basri. Now, what is he trying to show here is that i'tizal is a new innovative affair. Remember Ibn Qayyim, he said, anything that wasn't present at the time of the Sahaba and it became a statement that came after the time of the Sahaba and opposes them is what? It's innovation. So i'tizal wasn't there in the time of the Sahaba and it came after them and it opposes them, it is what? It's a newly invented affair. It's innovation. For that reason, the scholars say, وَلِدْتُ قَبْلِ الْإِعْتِزَالِ, I was born before this was even present. It's innovation. It's newly invented affair. Now the Mu'tazila, they have many false beliefs. From them, they say the evil doer, we can't call him a believer and we can't call him a kafir. So what is he? He's in a station between two stations. But in the hereafter, they say if he dies upon that, he's a kafir. He goes in the hellfire forever. Also, they have distorted beliefs regarding the names and attributes of Allah. They say, for example, Allah is al-alim bila ilm. A'udhu billah. They say Allah is alim. They affirm the name, but they say he doesn't have knowledge. They negate the attribute. They affirm the names, but they negate the attribute. Falsehood these people they have because of the philosophical nonsense that they dived into. They also claim the Quran was created, and they were the group that influenced Al-Ma'mun to do what? To harm the ulama, the scholars of the time, with this fitna of the Quran being created or not. This group was the one in responsible for that. From that which they believe is that they say intellectual evidences take precedence over the text of the Quran and Sunnah. They say intellectual evidences, the intellect takes precedence over the Quran and Sunnah. This is well known in their books. You'll find this. And from that which is beneficial to listen to is the most recent class that Abu Fajr gave regarding Al-Asbahaniya, where he discussed this. He discussed the chain of the Asha'ira, and he discussed Wasim ibn Ata and Amr ibn Ubaid, the two leaders of the Mu'tazila. And he discussed them and mentioned some of their repulsive statements in detail. So if a person really wants to understand how repulsive these people were, then go back to that statement of Amr ibn Ubaid, what he said about the hadith of Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, that he wouldn't believe anything from Allah told him about it. Showing us these people, they put their intellect forth instead of the book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. But what this narration is showing us here is that the belief of i'tizal is newly invented. It wasn't there in the time of the Sahaba or the Prophet ﷺ. Because it wasn't there, it's a new innovative affair. And how do we do new innovative affairs? We reject them. We don't accept new innovative affairs in the religion. They're rejected. So from that which new innovative is the i'tizal, and we reject it. Showing us here why we mentioned the statement of Ibn Qayyim in the beginning to make that point known. Then he says, وَقَالَ الشَّعْبِ كُنْتُ وَلَا رِفْضَ فِي الدُّنْيَا. I was alive and there was no rift in the dunya. I mean, there's no way of the Rafidah in the dunya. Again, showing us what? The way of the Rafidah is what? Newly invented. Sha'bi was there and it wasn't there before. It came later on. It came later on. Now, the Rafidah, the Shia, Shaykh al-Raji, he mentions, the Shia, there are more than 24 groups. The Shia, they have more than 24 groups. Now he mentions a few of them. From them, An-Nusayriyya. An-Nusayriyya, they believe Ali is Allah. A'udhu billah. An-Nusayriyya, they believe Ali is Allah. And they say Ali is in the clouds and he will return, and they consider him to be a deity, a God. They consider Ali to be a God. A'udhu billah. The second group he mentions is Al-Mukhatti'ah. Al-Mukhatti'ah are a group from the Shia who say Jibreel alayhi salam, he made a mistake in taking the revelation to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and not giving it to Ali. And not giving it to Ali. For that reason, you see some of them when they pray and they're hitting their thighs and they say Khan al-Amin, Khan al-Amin. What are they trying to say? They say Al-Amin deceived. What did he do wrong? He didn't give the message to Ali and he gave it instead to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is clear disbelief by consensus of the Muslims. To believe this is clear kufr by consensus of the Muslims. Number 3, the Rafidah. The extreme Shi'as who declare the companions to be kuffar and evildoers. And this group, the Rafidah, not only were they misguided when it came to their belief system, even in fiqh, if you read their statements, it's very repulsive. It's discussing some of the stuff that these people they say. But from that which they believe in their belief system is that they say only the one third of the Quran remains and 2/3 is lost. Say 1/3 of the Quran remains and 2/3 is lost. A'udhu billah. Allah says, Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikr wa inna lahu lahafidhun. Allah says, we sent down the remembrance, we're going to preserve it. They say no. 2/3 is lost. A'udhu billah. Clearly opposing the book of Allah and the sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Also, they worship the household of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And all of this stuff is kufr that they have. If a person asks why they were called al-Rafidah, some of them they said is because they rejected the Sahaba and rejected the leadership of Abu Bakr and Umar. They say they came to Zayd ibn Ali and they asked Zayd ibn Ali what he said Abu Bakr and Umar, and he said good for them, so they departed from him and left him off. So he said, Antum al-Rafidah, you are those who leave off and depart. You are those who leave off and depart. Some of them they say that they didn't support Zayd ibn Ali, so they're called Rafidah because of that. And they say other than this. Now, the fourth one he mentions is Az-Zaydiyah. Az-Zaydiyah, they're a group that considered Ali to be better than Uthman, radiallahu an. And they have levels amongst them are disbelievers and them are innovators. Now, benefit I want to mention, some of the scholars they say, like Imam Muqbil, bring me a small Zaydi and I'll expose to you a big Rafidi. A lot of the Rafidah today, they'll claim they're Zaydiyah. They're not Zaydiyah, they're Rafidah. If you're to look at their belief system and discuss with them, you'll clarify to yourself that these guys are extreme Rafidah. So don't be fooled by the claim that they're Zaydiyah. The Houthis, for example, in Yemen, not Zaydiyah. The Houthis is Ithna Ashariyah, they're Rafidah. They're extreme Shi'as, they're not Zaydiyah. So some of the scholars said, bring me a small Zaydi and I'll expose to you a big Rafidi. Showing us, be careful what a person is saying, I'm just Zaydi. No, he's not Zaydi, he's Rafidi. But he's trying to hide his clear disbelief by saying he's Zaydi. All of this shows that the Rafidah and the Shia, they're a misguided sect. Now I want to mention some statement Shaykh al-Islam, Taymiyya rahimahullah. Shaykh al-Islam, he says, whoever has the least amount of awareness of the religion of Islam will know that the way of the Rafidah is in opposition to it. For that reason, the heretics who wanted to corrupt Islam, they commanded to make the way of the Shia apparent and widespread. The heretics, they want to corrupt Islam, they want to spread the way of the Rafidah and the Shia. Look at the Tatar, look at the Hijra Tatar, what they want to spread? The way of the Rafidah. If you look at Minhaj as-Sunnah of Shaykh al-Islam, Ibn Taymiyyah, you'll find, why did he write that book? Because of a man who wrote a doctrine and misguided the leader of that area who spread Rafd. He was called Ibn Mutahhir, and Shaykh al-Islam called Ibn Munajjis. All of this showing us that the Zanadiqa, when they want to harm Islam, they spread the way of the Rafidah. Then he says, and they would enter to their intents by way of them. He also says the Rafidah are a forsaken nation. They don't have correct intellect, nor authentic narrations, no accepted religion or aided worldly life. They're lost in everything. They're lost in everything. Look at their worldly life. Even their worldly life is not a good life that they live. Also, he says their support for the Jews is a well-known affair, whereas the people considered them to be the donkeys of the Jews. And this is reality even to our time today. That these are people which in reality are donkeys of them. Then he says, Qadar was mentioned amongst Mujahid. And he said, Kafartu bi dinin walidtu qablahu. I reject a religion which I was born before it. Meaning, I reject a religion that came after the time of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it wasn't there at his time, and I was born before it. Al-Qadariyah. So he's talking about here the Qadariyah, which also innovated affair. He rejects that. For it wasn't there in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and the time of the Sahaba, except until the end of the time of the Sahaba. Now, before we mention what Shaykh al-Raji mentions regarding the Qadariyah, Ahlul Sunnah, we believe regarding Qadr 4 things. Number one, Allah's pre-all-inclusive knowledge of everything, that Allah knows everything past and present or future. He knows that which is impossible, that which has not occurred, and if it will occur, how it would have occurred. Inna Allah bi kulli shayin alim. Allah is aware and knows about everything. So number one is ilm. It's important to understand when we come to the next point. Number two is al-kitaba, that Allah wrote everything in Al-Lawh al-Mahfuz, the prescribed tablet. Number three is belief in al-Mashi'ah, belief that Allah Azza wa Jal, everything occurs by the will of Allah. Nothing occurs in this universe except by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And number four, al-Khalq, that Allah created everything in existence. There's nothing in existence except that Allah Azza wa Jal created it. So where the Qadariyah they go wrong? The Qadariyah, there are levels. There are two levels. In the beginning of them, they rejected knowledge. So they rejected ilm and al-kitab. They rejected knowledge and writing. This group are kuffar. Those who rejected knowledge and kitab are kuffar. As the scholars have mentioned, that debate them regarding knowledge. If they affirm knowledge, khusimu. If they affirm knowledge, their debater are defeated. But if they don't, then they disbelieve. But this group became extinct. This group that negated knowledge and writing became extinct. From the Ma'bad al-Juhani and his followers are those, like they came to Ibn Umar and complained about him. The second phase of them was, they affirm knowledge and writing, but reject the general will and creation of Allah. They rejected the general will and the creation of Allah. So they say, the slave creates his own actions. They say the slave creates his own actions, and Allah did not decree that. And they claim that a person is independently responsible for producing his action. This is why they were called the fire worshippers of this ummah. Because they say everyone creates their own actions. Everyone creates their own actions. Now why the scholars not declared them to be kuffar? Because they had a shubha. They had a doubt. Although this belief is kufr, they had a doubt and some interpretation that prevented the scholars from declaring the second group to be kuffar. Now, as for Ahlul Sunnah, we believe in the four levels we mentioned earlier. Al-ilm, wal-kitaba, wal-mashi'ah, wal-khalq. Allah's knowledge, His writing everything, His general will, and His creating everything. That's Mujahid here. What he's saying is here that the religion of the Qadariyah is innovated and he doesn't believe in it. The religion of the Qadariyah is innovated and he doesn't believe in it because it's a newly invented affair. And as we mentioned before, that every newly innovated affair, we reject it. We reject it, why? Because it wasn't at the time when the Prophet wasn't present. No, it was present at the time of the Sahaba. And if the Sahaba didn't make that statement and someone comes there and opposes Sahaba in it, then what happens? That newly innovated affair is rejected. وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى. The one who opposes the messenger and follows the way of other than the believers. Who are the believers at that time? The Sahaba. So the Sahaba didn't agree upon something. And didn't agree upon what they came with. And they came with newly innovated affair. Then how can someone say that's true when the Sahaba didn't believe that? The Sahaba at that time were the believers. And Allah is saying, whoever opposes their way will have from what? A punishment of the hellfire. So what Ibn Qayyim was mentioning, rahimahullah, earlier, that any way that comes later on after the Sahaba and opposes the Sahaba's way is newly innovated and invented, and we reject it. So if someone comes to you today, he's Ash'ari, for example, we say it's rejected. Was it time of the Prophet? No. Time of Sahaba? No. It's newly innovative affair. Someone calls you Mu'tazili, Jahmi, whatever name he wants to make up. He comes with you with that, you say, was it at the time of the Prophet? No. Was it time of Sahaba? No. It's newly innovative affair. And every new innovative affair is misguidance, every misguidance rejected. So we say to them that these new ways that they've made up and come about with, that they are rejected and we don't accept it. So all of these narrations from the Salaf here are warning against anything that came after the time of the Sahaba and wasn't there at that time and opposes their way, it's rejected. We don't accept it. And a person shouldn't be misled by just titles and this many people follow us and we have this large number. وَمَا أَكْثَرُ النَّاسِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتَ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. Majority of people don't believe, even if you try to make them guided. It's not about numbers. A prophet will come وَمَعْهُ الرَّحْمِ. A prophet will come on that day, he has 3 to 9 people with him. وَنَبِي لَيْسَ مَعْهُ أَحَدٍ. And a prophet will come, he has no one with him, no followers. Showing us what? It's not about numbers. So with this, inshallah, we'll stop. If there's any quick question, we'll take now. If not, we'll continue next week. Yes.